everyone. Episode 27, Second Look Sports Show. Alex Mandarino, Justin Arnberg, Brandon Brown with you as always. And it's over. It's over, boys. I don't know if you guys predicted it that it was over. There's a lot of, can Edmonton do it? Will they, won't they? They won't. They won't, unfortunately. And it's back-to-back years. The Florida Panthers, congratulations, Stanley Cup champions once again. In dominating fashion this time around, there really wasn't any question about halfway through that Game 6. They did defeat the Oilers at home in Sunrise 5-1. Sam Reinhart, 4 goals. 5 goals would be crazy. 4 goals. In Edmonton. Crazy. It's still unbelievable, even if there was an empty net or two there. And champions once again. And they have gone hard. We can talk about their celebrations and kind of break down all the what's come. But what did you guys think? Was there any chance for Edmonton there? Was this one of the best teams you've ever seen? Justin, what are your thoughts on just this victory and how it's sunk in over the past few days?
Well, I have a little bit of a comparison here, just before we dive into the Stanley Cup final. The Florida Panthers are so nasty and so vicious on the ice, right? Just like a person on this podcast. Alex Mandarino. What happened on last Tuesday night? Didn't you
Oh, you're talking about softball?
Oh, yeah, beer league softball.
Oh, this is classic.
Brandon, this you haven't heard about this, and it's wonderful.
Listen.
It is wonderful.
So, Brandon, you play you've played softball with us a couple times this season. We have a basically Centennial College program softball every Tuesday. And this was our first playoff game this week. We played probably a team that maybe has one hand up on us. I think the first time we played this team, 4-3 loss. The last time we played them, we got absolutely blown out of the water. We were missing a couple of people on our team. I think that's when you were there, Brandon. You were there.
Yeah.
We had a couple of subs. Yeah. And you performed very admirably. We just could not put anything together. Yeah. This time around, there's no specifics we can get into because we could talk about it for too long, but it got to a point near the end of the game. The game was tied. Or no, I think we were at the point basically.
I scored the
game leading.
Go ahead run basically in the top of the 7th inning. It was Brandon. When I tell you this game was intense, it was good but intense, and then everything just went to a boil point.
Well, because it was very intense. There was already a couple of calls where the other team had kind of had called out some small things that we'd done. Eric made a play at shortstop, but he was in the lane of the runner running from second to third. And they're like, oh, you can't do that. You can't be in the lane. It's all right. We're not standing to try and block certain things. You're just playing the odds of where the ball goes. Anyways, a couple of notes here and there. And so that kind of thing to me bothers me. It's it's recreational softball. None of this matters at the end of the day. So we are one girl short. So we automatically will take an out at the next time that we're batting. This is the top of the 7th inning, our last time batting. And our friend Dylan's up to bat. Once Dylan bats, regardless of what happens with him, the next play is an out because we have to forfeit an out without a girl there in that place. We're tied. At this point in time. Justin's at third.
No, I'm at second.
You're at second. Okay, so you hustled. You're at second at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Another friend of ours, Ryan's at first. Dylan hits a bit of a ground ball, goes right to the second baseman, and Ryan's running to second. Now, mind you, he has shorts on, and so they try to get him out at second, and he kind of does this he kind of slips and slides, right? It's kind of he's not outright sliding to second, but he kind of does the whole maybe his legs are fell out from under him, so he does sort of a sliding motion, and you're not allowed to slide in this league. It's a rule. And so Justin doesn't care. He's I'm going home, and I'm that's awesome. Justin, go. We need the run. This team goes nuts. Oh, yeah, he slid. You can't do that. And I'm on the bench. I'm this is insane. So I'm walking around. This is annoying. And I'm out loud. I'm guys, this is annoying. I can't believe we have to deal with this. Now, second baseman, is the one who's the most annoyed at this. She's like, he slid, and yelling back and forth. Ian, our captain, goes out to sort it out. And then I hear her say, "Oh, I didn't actually see it, so I don't know." And I'm like, "Oh, well, then that's the most annoying thing I've ever heard. Because why are you saying he slid? You just admitted you didn't see it." So then she calls me out. I walk out of the dugout, and I'm like, "Well, look, like I'm frustrated, so we're not yelling." But
Couple
there's a back and
F-bombs
forth
were
being like,
exchanged.
"Yo, yeah." I'm like, what is this? Like, this kind of thing to me, we're supposed to have fun. I understand it looks like he slid. He's wearing shorts. So if you think he slid, I think that's preposterous. Why do you want to tear up your knee in a softball game? Anyway, they let the run count. He is out regardless. We lose the game. It doesn't matter. We had no chance. We did have the handshakes after the game. We talked about it. Everyone was fine. I was like, listen, like, it gets blown out of proportion. We gave each other hugs. Everyone was completely fine. No issues. But it got heated.
That's crazy.
It got heated listen, I don't like that kind of thing. I don't like it. It's fun. And that's the way we ended things there. So yeah, that's what Justin's talking about here. I hope I explained that well.
No, I mean, there's lots of different. Without being there, it's hard to obviously comment. But I'm glad at least it didn't come to blows. It seems so good for you guys. It's too bad about the loss, but
it's a crazy story, isn't it? In regulation or in just rec softball. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah.
It'd be crazier if we did.
Or is that like genuine?
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound that crazy, Justin. People argue about softball, especially when there's no umpires, and especially if there's rules like where something happens, it doesn't look like it happens in baseball all the time. I'll admit, if Eric was in the base path, out. That's out. Or you can't do that. It doesn't matter if the ball's coming your way and even if you're trying to get to it. If you're blocking the runner, they're safe. Without seeing the play and how it plays out, it doesn't matter what level it is. Like that's my interpretation of that rule. Sliding thing, like if the guy fell or was inadvertently trying to avoid the tag and kind of got to the ground, without seeing it, it's hard to comment. But yeah, like I'm sure in the throes of a playoff game, everyone's going to argue for their side. So that's great. I wish I was there to see it all unfold.
Yeah, our team's definitely the most controversy team in the league. We definitely create the most. We've injured a person, hit a couple people in the hands.
It's all accidental.
For rec softball, it's all accidental, 100%. But it's nuts. For rec softball, for beer league softball, which by the way now you can't even have beer there anymore. Which that's crazy. But yeah,
that's the worst part.
I know, right? Like this whole point of going is to be social. No, I'm joking. Okay, well, back to the Stanley Cup champion. That was a good story, though. You had to tell that. You just had to.
It was, wires crossed. I don't like when, at the end of the day, I just think it's like, all right, you guys, I don't like teams that are hardos. That's my, then they weren't. It just felt like that. But the Florida Panthers are hardos in a good way, aren't they?
It was, well, the only thing, like, when she aggressively, I guess, dropped the F-bomb and looked at you and was she meant she blew up. She snapped.
There you go.
And, just snapped at Alex. And Alex was like, "Who, me?" He wasn't the one talking in the dugout the whole time. That was screaming.
Oh, it was 100% me.
Yeah, it was so good. But yes, the Florida Panthers, they're hardos, they're hard asses, and yes, they win the Stanley Cup back to back. Just pure domination on and off the ice. Mental games. They're singing Pink Pony Club now in their cup celebrations. Matthew Tkachuk has it out for this Oilers team. It goes back to him in Calgary in those days. That rivalry. It's quite the story. It's quite the season. The NHL is definitely winning. The hockey's better for this series. Hockey's better for the whole season in general. But yeah, this is just crazy. The fact that they were able to make it look easier than last year when it felt like, in my opinion, Edmonton got deeper. especially up front. Yeah, it's like credit to the Florida Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely credit to the Panthers. I mean, there's no doubt about it that they're the best team in the NHL and have been over the past 2 years. There's an argument for the past 3 years, right? Like they were in the Cup final 3 years ago and didn't get it done, and their resiliency to continue to churn out, a roster and make smart moves to get themselves back in position to obviously win the Cup last year and then win it this year. It's very commendable. The team has done a fantastic job. The franchise is on a completely different level in terms of where it was even 5 years ago. And yeah, I agree, Justin. I think it is good for the NHL. We've seen some really good stories come out around this final. We've seen some really good news, and yeah, while the viewership in the States is still not where we'd always want it, but I think it still helps to make strides in the way that they have. Connor McDavid obviously being the best player in the NHL and being a part of 2 straight finals, even though they were both losses. That's important. You always want to see your highest quality players play in the best games possible, and that's what we've seen. But I can't lie, I am slightly disappointed in the Oilers, particularly their efforts in Game 5 and 6 to go down like that was unfortunate.
I don't think. Okay, so here's my disagreement with that. I don't think it's the Oilers players. I'm more so disappointed with Chris Knobloch. Chris Knobloch.
I mean,
the series, in my opinion.
I don't know how you can say that when they got just absolutely blown out like multiple games. Like I agree, like
decisions that like led to that, in my opinion.
Like in terms of Ross, like who's in and out. Like I don't,
like not just.
I don't know that Jeff Skinner or Stuart Skinner for that. Like they were in a bad spot.
Out of the lineup, like taking him out of the lineup didn't make any sense. Moving Evander Kane, even though he took some dumb penalties, moving him down to the fourth line effectively took him out of the series, did not have any mojo, and was great for you the rest of the playoffs. You ended up just trying to do the exact same thing over and over again, like Connor McDavid alluded to after Game 6, banging their heads against the wall. They were one of the best teams getting the puck or breaking the puck out of their own zone in the playoffs up until the final. And then it just seemed like Chris Knobloch didn't want to change anything. And then not only that, like just the understanding of like rest over fatigue, like you had Chris Knobloch running his guys and I understand like you're gonna have to like at some point in Game 6 load them up, and you're gonna have to in the third period, like you're trying to come back. Connor McDavid's gonna have to play like 12 minutes that period, but like in Game 5. Why is he playing so much in the first like 2 periods, and why are they taking minute and a half long shifts? It just didn't make any sense compared to Florida taking like 40 to 45 second shifts. That adds up over the course of a game, and I think that makes them fresher for the third period, where they just like took the Edmonton Oilers and dismantled them completely because they looked out of gas in the third period of Game 5, and ever since then they just didn't have the energy to come back. So that's why I think like. Yes, it's on the players for sure. You can, but I look at these 2 losses and I'm like, that's more coaching in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. I just want to jump in because I definitely can see some roster management moves. I just think he got to a point where like the only thing I disagree was that he didn't want to make changes. It almost like it felt to me like he made too many changes, like the moving of Evander Kane down and then the in and outs of certain players. The goalies aside, because I think the decisions with the goalies, I think were played the way you have to play them, especially going back to Skinner in Game 6. You live and die by the guy that ultimately is probably going to be their starter next year. And whether that's right or wrong, that's the way they look at him, and you can't go out with your backup. I think it's just there was never like a point in the series where it felt like the Oilers had control depth-wise. And that's just a factor of how the team was built in Florida. But depth had sort of been the biggest strength of the Oilers outside of your 2 main guys and stretches of good Stuart Skinner, like we saw in last year's playoffs. But depth had carried this team. There was all the stats of McDavid's percentage of points and goals compared to the depth. Last year, it was like essentially all favoring McDavid and Draisaitl. Now, this year, the depth chipped in the first 3 series, and then they were absolutely stymied for the rest of this playoffs against the Florida Panthers. You saw nothing from the bottom. And, look, RNH ends up coming out with a broken hand, and he's not even really a depth piece. But when you kind of fit these guys in and out of the lineup and they're already not playing every game, the Jeff Skinners and the Kasperi Kapanens, who wasn't available for the beginning of the playoffs, available as in he wasn't playing, you're not going to get the mojo of these guys to play and get involved in these type of games, and so they're not going to contribute. So I just think the depth of the Florida Panthers is it's more credit to them than the Oilers lost, but I agree, like, disappointment is an understatement. Those depth guys gave them nothing, and although McDavid and Draisaitl finished with 30 plus points, again, it's the same narrative every single year. You got no goalie, you got no depth, you got to rely on the main guys. And I guess throw Evan Bouchard in that mix now because he's going to end up getting paid and he's part of that core. But disappointing to say the least.
It's not just like, here's what I'll say to that. It's not just the Edmonton Oilers though. Like it's every team. Go ask Tampa Bay. Go ask Toronto. Go ask Carolina. Like Florida does this to every team. They make you mad. They take away your best ability in the game and they say beat us with anything else other than that because you're not beating us with this. And they make everyone mad because they don't have that ability anymore. And for the Edmonton Oilers, it's breaking out of their own zone with speed in the neutral zone that creates to their great offensive plays led by none other than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Once you shut that down, then it relies on the depth. And like you said, the depth wasn't there, partly because also Florida's depth is at the same time insane.
Yeah.
Having Brad Marchand, Anton Lundell, and Eetu Luostarinen on your third line, that could be anyone's other second line in the NHL. Like, they call him Baby Barkov for a reason. Like, it's ridiculous what Lundell has become. Like, that contract last year when he signed it, like, I thought that was a ridiculous team-friendly contract at the time, and it's already proven that he's outplayed it.
Yeah, I think just quickly on that, it's funny. Like, I heard, I think Spit and Chicklets, they had Bob Stauffer, I think, on. I think it was Lundell got picked, and then it was Seth Jarvis, and then it was Dylan Holloway. Like, those were how the picks in the draft went, just to see, like, would you rather have a Lundell or a Seth Jarvis? I mean, that's a different story, but then Holloway, who's not even on the Oilers anymore. It's just, like, how it all played out, unfortunately. And even the stat of Brad Marchand a few years ago when in Game 5 he was on Boston, he could have ended the Florida Panthers season by scoring on that breakaway against Sergei Bobrovsky. Doesn't. And we know what happened. And now he's on the Florida Panthers. You could have stopped this narrative from happening 2 years ago, whatever. And now you're the one of two main reasons. That's a lie. There's one of many, but he's the second in Conn Smythe voting by like 8 votes to Sam Bennett to make the
I think he should have won.
It's crazy.
I think he should have won. Personally, he was my Conn Smythe over Bennett, but that's neither here nor anyone. Like, there was a bunch of guys I think could have deserved it on the Florida. You could have, like, I think maybe it was you, Brandon, I was talking to, or someone else before, like, in the last couple of days. Like, if for the NHL, I'm pretty sure you have to submit your Conn Smythe ballot after the second period of, like, the potential game. So, like, Sam Reinhart goes and scores twice more, like, in the third period, even though they're both empty netters. That's 4 goals in the game. Maybe he would have got some more Conn Smythe love. Who knows? But, like, yeah, there were so many Panthers on that team that, like, you could have. Like, can you talk about depth? I think they had, like, 8 guys that get 20 points or something like that, or at least 6.
Something like that.
Like, I don't think we've seen a team do that before. Like, I don't think we've seen, like, a team with that many guys put up that many points in a playoff run.
Yeah, no, I think it speaks more so to their system just because of how difficult it is to build a strong offensive, juggernaut in the salary cap era. And you're seeing Florida put together a team with guys that have come from other, organizations who were kind of cast-offs, and they come to Florida and they seem to just fit like a glove, regardless of what it is. You look at Bennett and Kachuk and obviously now Marchand. Like, there's a ton of guys that have that weren't homegrown. I think you can only really say on this squad, in terms of the core, it's Barkov, it's Ekblad, and from there, I mean, there's other guys that have been drafted by the organization and have come up with the team, but pretty much most of their depended on players are coming from other organizations, and we're, like I said, we're kind of cast off, and we're seen as maybe not as not as high in their potential as maybe once when they were drafted, but they come to Florida, they work as a group, and the addition of Paul Maurice over the last few years has just been a complete game changer for them, and that's what's that all of those points put together just has allowed them to find their way and has put them in a position to continue it on. I don't think that anyone's looking at this and saying, oh, they're done after 2 years or 2 wins. Obviously, we'll see what happens in free agency, but it looks like the majority of this group could be back, and we could see them for sure try to take another run at a three-peat, which would be incredible and something that obviously hasn't been done in the NHL in a long time.
Yeah, it hasn't been done since the 80s with the Islanders.
That have been the Islanders, and
not even the Oilers did it. The Oilers they went back to back.
So it was Islanders for 3, then it was 2 Oilers, then it was Flames, and then I thought it was 3 Oilers in a row.
No, I think
but
it was
regardless, it doesn't
years.
matter.
3 and 4 years.
It doesn't matter. It's either way. It's been a very long time. Just quickly before we get to like the aftermath, because I know on both sides there's a lot to talk about. Coaches, Paul Maurice, Dave put this really like Dave in our hockey chat put a couple of different things. He sent basically a video of Maurice on the bench. Basically, was telling his fourth line, "You're getting the last shift because you guys have dragged basically this team in." So I thought that was awesome, like yelling, "You guys deserve this last shift." And then apparently also after the team was celebrating in the dressing room, they brought a lot of people in to celebrate in the dressing room at home. And Paul Maurice basically walked in and kicked all of the people out of the dressing room that weren't team and said, like, "We need a team celebration for 15 minutes. I just need a conversation with these guys," which I thought was awesome because teams change. Normally, I think the best team change is like 12% change year over year is what like the experts say is good for a team every season to change in order to be successful. So you're not going to have the same group. It's awesome to have that moment together. Dave, again, he was like, Dave goes, "I don't know if I'm like so tired of Paul Maurice or if I just want to run through a wall for this guy." Because like you've seen so much of him over 3 years. I'm on the fence because there's things that he does that I love, but I think I'm just sort of tired of this, like, everything's got to be a meme sort of thing. Like, there's no regular answers with him. But at the same time, like, who am I to argue with his style? He's made it to he's won back-to-back cups after 25 years of coaching. So he on one end is very interesting. Knobloch on the other end, I'm like, dude, it's obviously not his fault. We were just talking about how dominant Florida is, but in any given day. But no, I'm sorry. The only thing I want to say is it's like you couldn't tell if like he lost 10-0 or won 10-0 ever. It's the same demeanor, and it's obviously who am I to judge? Back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. But it's like, dude, if you're down in Game 5, you're going to Florida for Game 6. Show some like not worry, but like. This team needs to be better. Like, call your team, do something. It's like there's no pulse there. And to me, it's like, is he loud in the dressing room, or is he? Do other guys have to step up? At some point, your coach should probably show belief or show some type of heartbeat. I see that. I'm like, as an Oilers fan, how can you get excited when you have a coach that doesn't seem to have any like pulse to him? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Just a thought on Knobloch there. Oh, I'm thinking like from a Leafs perspective, like Craig Berube. It's just
not coach. Who else has that on the Edmonton Oilers?
Oh, like who's gonna have that like juice? Well,
that's what I was gonna say. Is it feels like it feels like McDavid, who I think you're alluding to. Like he doesn't. Yes. It feels like he has that same level, but I would argue now, at this point, like I would, and I'm not saying Justin or Alex that you're calling for this, but I think you maybe want a guy now who's going to light that. Not that McDavid needs to be lit, a fire under him. No, I think that he has that fire in him, and he's just very good at showing that restraint, and he's able to kind of even out. There's been moments, obviously, we saw the doc where he kind of lets loose and goes crazy, but that's understandable. And I think you do maybe want a guy who can come in and try to light that fire. I feel like Draisaitl has that ability too, to kind of, rise to the occasion. And maybe you just need a guy who can kind of come in and, and bring them to another level, or at least bring kind of that environment. And I think that I don't think Knobloch's a bad coach. He's obviously done a fantastic job getting them to two straight finals kind of out of nowhere. But there's just that personality thing where maybe that might help them. I'm not saying that would have, miraculously won them a cup, but I can see where you're going, Alex. And I think it would be good to see that kind of emotion from a coach when you're dealing with players that have shown in the past that they have that emotion as well, and they want to win, and they've clearly, been through heartbreak now, and I think that would only help them in the future. But there's no coaches like Paul Maurice, that's for sure, and I'm sure there's guys that will be able to, or that would be able to, bring that level of intensity. But at the same time, is it you're just hoping at this point that a new coach or that a different environment would be sustainable to winning still. So I don't know that there needs to be a change, but I agree that there could definitely be, some more emotion from Mr. Knobloch.
Yeah. And just to jump in, Justin, I definitely don't think he needs to be fired. I think it'd be insane to be like, oh yeah, Knobloch needs to be fired. No, I don't think that at all. He's obviously a great coach. I just agree. I just think just show a little jam. I don't know.
But it's the exact same way that Connor McDavid is, win or lose. He does not show any emotion. He cares about one thing, and it's winning. And I think we need to talk about him a little bit later. But
100%, yeah.
He set that kind of, I guess standard. It doesn't matter we win or lose. These games, they're just a smaller step to the prize that we have won, and that is winning the Stanley Cup. That's all they care about, or that's all he cares about. And there's some stuff that I think with him that needs to be said when it comes to his future. But before we get into that, to wrap up, I guess, the Stanley Cup final, has there ever been a more I guess trade deadline acquisition that has been bigger or a better fit than Brad Marchand? He might be the best one of all time.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone right now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, have to go back and look, but I mean, I agree that he's definitely, in terms of what they paid for him and how that whole thing ended up, I would agree that it's definitely one of the more efficient ones that's ever been done. It really didn't cost them much. I know obviously I think it was a second round pick, which turned into a first round pick because they went so far, but Florida's going to be picking pretty high in the draft for a little bit. So I don't think they're too worried. And I don't know that, that you can really argue that it almost cost them nothing, because they're in a point right now where they were pushing to contend, and they're going to be, and that's part of what contending teams do, is they mortgage their future a little bit in order to bring in guys who can help them now. And yeah, Marchand, and to a lesser extent, because I know it wasn't at the deadline, but the Seth Jones deal, I think, helped propel them to another level as well. You take him out of the lineup, and all of a sudden that defense is a little bit different. And I think Edmonton might have had a little bit better chance. Toronto might have had a better chance. Carolina might have had a better chance if you take out a Seth Jones in the lineup, because he was so good, and he's helping them kind of figure out what their long-term plan is going to be, especially with kind of Aaron Ekblad under heading to free agency potentially, and we'll see what happens with their decor. But Justin, you're 100% right. They made some great moves, and it definitely helped them get back to where they were.
Brad's about to have the summer of his life. Just be prepared for all the photos to come out. Did you guys see the one the other day? First off, he's already on a world tour already. You got the photo of a beer, a spiked iced tea, and a coffee in one arm, and he's just holding them there, and it's bro, this is already a classic. This is the morning after the cup, so you can tell he's already running on fumes, just trying to just get enough energy through the coffee to then drink the iced tea and then drink the beer. But then yesterday they go to I'm guessing a dinner before they go to the nightclub, where Sam Bennett then says, "I'm not effing leaving." But he goes on this tour, just going and posting on social or his Instagram story, thanking every team that passed and gave up every player. And it's this guy is on an all-time just he doesn't care. He's just gonna be who he is, and that is being a menace. I want him on the Olympic team. I'm sorry if he's slow or compared to the rest. I just want him on the Olympic team. I do. I want to see it.
Based on these playoffs, like it's gonna end up being a decision of like who's the hottest, pretty much at the time of making that roster decision. I think the final rosters need to be chosen by like December. We saw the first 6 obviously go out, but I mean, yeah, like why wouldn't you at this point? If you had to choose today,
Just
he's definitely making the team.
And leadership wise,
True.
Like you can see Sam Bennett after the. Did you guys hear that interview with Elliot Friedman and David Amber? Like Marchand gets the cup, and he goes like,
Yeah,
that guy is like the best guy in the entire world. Like they hated each other before he came, and then like to see like he said, we follow him, like because he's just a natural born leader, and like even though like you. Like he's the ultimate. You hate him if he's not on your team, but if he's on your team, you love him to death because yes, he is that guy. But yeah, that's it on the Florida Panthers that I have for right now. They're back-to-back champions for a reason. They were the best team in the NHL this season by far. Like sure, I had hoped that Edmonton would win, not only because I'd like to see Connor McDavid get one, and I think that he's now feeling the ultimate pressure of I gotta at least get one here before my career's up. I had 2 chances at it already, and yeah, I guess we can go there next because that's where this all leads is.
Well,
he's got to get one.
We will go there right now, but just the celebration of this. I love watching these guys. They deserve it. They're at 11 in Miami celebrating last night. There's a live, like an Instagram live of Sam Reinhart and Barkov.
Oh, yeah.
There's no ounce of sobriety there, and they deserve to be. Like, they should be having an insane amount of fun. It's unbelievable. The troll jobs they're doing.
Sober. They were sober. Didn't you see?
Yeah, they were drinking waters. Yeah,
they were drinking water.
They were drinking waters. They were drinking waters. I mean, they deserve it.
I love it too, and they do deserve it, and it's great to see them having so much fun. I do kind of, or I know it's the world we live in. I don't love the photos in the club or the video, like that people are. I know it's not the team or anything. Like, there's nothing they can do about it. It's the world you live in. But like, let the guys do their thing. They don't like, you don't want them on video doing something stupid or I just that's the one thing I don't like. But I love like the stuff at the Elbow Room on Wednesday morning and everything that leading up to that, and the parade's going to be amazing this weekend. I'm sure. Hopefully, a lot of people go, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, it's not going to be
a lot of people.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people, but I mean, like compared to like a hockey market, we may not see as big of a parade as we've seen in the past. But that's the thing is you got to grow the game, and obviously we see Bettman continuously pushing the success of the Florida teams in the Sun Belt region. But that was my one gripe is like stop taking videos of people when they're having fun and drinking and then doing their thing. Like, take a snap of, I don't mind the photos. Photos are fine because you capture a moment. Hopefully it's a good one. But like the videos and stuff, you just never, like, I don't know. You never know.
Brad Marchand, like in the 2011 Cup, that photo, that's an all-time photo.
There's a bunch of,
I think some photos like that are just, they're amazing. Like,
it's interesting because like, I was watching this like a 4.5 minute video of Reinhart and Barkov outside of 11, and I'm watching this video this morning, and I'm like, I am cringing, Brandon, because I'm like, please, like, don't end your career on this video, right? You could just, you never know.
Exactly. That's the biggest scare.
The thing is, it's again, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but like NBA players, for example, show emotion, and in interviews they show their true selves. So that's the one thing I love about the NBA is they do. And I think that's reasonable. NHL players, they don't. Like, there's just this like uptightness, and then it's all get released in like these drunk videos. So there's such a difference between the player that we see, when you're trying to win the cup, obviously, but then when the release is there, and you're like, I hope it doesn't go so out of hand. I'm happy to see their true selves are having fun, but you hope it just doesn't go overboard. And I think there's just such a difference between the players' personalities that you're like, oh man, maybe that's the craziest part of it, is like you don't see this every day. It's so far everybody's been good. I hope it stays that way.
The one thing I will say, like Sam Bennett obviously wanted that on video last night. There's no way he does that.
Well, that seemed a little bit orchestrated. They had the screen up with the 8 more year, like that I can understand, but like I just mean like the ones that where they don't where they don't necessarily know that they're being filmed, or where it's kind of more in the moment. Like that's like Alex said, like it's just you don't want a public thing like that to get out if it ends up being not great.
You heard Ryan Hart get asked by, I think it was just some random person, like, what do you think about McDavid? And I was like, oh, he's like, my.
Yeah, like, I know. I was worried.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
Is he gonna just because like obviously they are on the Canadian team together.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna have to play together. But like just in the moment, you just beat them in the Stanley Cup final back-to-back years. Like, are you going to say like, F that guy, or like something like on those lines, like he's not good, like he's just, or something on those lines, like are you gonna cross the line and just say that on camera, like he's nothing or something like that? Like it scares me when that, because like listen, behind closed doors with the team, they're probably saying like McDavid's got nothing on us, but like and like they deservingly have that right. They beat him twice in a row. But like that's team. They embody what a team is. So like let them have that moment, and if they want to like take pictures with each other and stuff, like that's cool. But like like the videos and stuff that just ran, like when you don't know you're being videotaped and you're that drunk, like that's where it can become trouble. Like, and you just gotta hope the natural born instincts kick in and just say, just shut her down. Don't shut it say down anything for this. Stupid. Like, just don't ruin the career here. Just,
and you know what? That's just a credit to hockey players as people, I think, because we've never really seen, I can't think of any Stanley Cup where like it's been in poor taste. It's all been just Ovechkin in the fountain is like the one you think off the bat. You can have a couple drinks, but it's all in good fun. Like so far so good, and hopefully we just see some positive videos continue to come out there. So it's all obviously gravy in Florida. We might see Bennett and Marchand back. We might see Ekblad back. Whatever. It's not so much in Edmonton. It's not even. It might be sunny and great in Edmonton weather-wise, but it's not in terms of the internal Edmonton Oilers team. McDavid, obviously have to talk about those comments. Obviously, he's interviewed yesterday. The media sort of like the locker room clean-out day, end of season availability, and McDavid, we don't have to go into the specifics, but is clearly not making any decisions on his future right now. That was the biggest takeaway. But more than anything, you look at it and think, okay, there was a lot of nuance to what his interview was saying, and bringing up the fact that, people want to make me, people think I'm going to make a decision on July 1st. I had to discuss it with my family. Winning is everything. With that being said, I have to look at this organization and see what's best for my family, my future. He didn't hint at anything, but I think he said a lot without saying anything. Justin, I know you probably had a lot of thoughts on it in terms of like what came out of that interview. I'm obviously nervous if I'm an Oilers fan, but at the end of the day, you're interviewing this guy 2 days after losing a cup. So I think everything with a grain of salt. What are your thoughts, Justin, first, and then Brandon?
So, like, I don't think that should make Oilers fans scared. It definitely left the door open for the possibility of maybe not signing an extension. Like, that's 100% certain. If that makes you scared, then sure. But I don't think it was more so him saying, like, I don't want to be here or want to resign. It was more so calling out the Oilers brass and saying, like, I want to be here. If you can present me with the chance to win year in without, I want to sign that contract today. Like, the contract will take care of itself. You don't have to worry about, like, is the Edmonton Oilers going to pay Connor McDavid? That's not the issue. The issue with this is just like Quinn Hughes in Vancouver. Are you going to be a winning team? That's all these guys care about. Now, I do have one thing, and this is going to be a hot topic. If McDavid truly wants to win, if he really wants to win, if basically what I mean is if everything that he says is I want to win. I want to win. That's all he cares about. That's all he ever says. If he truly wants that, why don't you take a pay cut? And I'm not saying go take in $6 million. Why don't you sign 8x10? And that's because you already have $100 million contract in the bank. That's $180 million if you signed for another 8 years. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve $16 or $18 million. He's worth every freaking penny of whatever he wants. But if he wants to win, he's got to realize that there is Leon Draisaitl, who's making $14 million. Yeah. There's Darnell Nurse, who's making $9.25. There's Evan Bouchard, who's probably going to be $10 million. And then there's going to be him, if we go off of what he thinks or what we expect him to make, which would be 16 at the bare minimum. That means there's $50 freaking million in 4 players. Ask the last team that loaded up with $50 million in 4 players how that worked out. Mm-hmm. Just simply, you can't win the cup that way. They want more depth. They want more pieces. Just take a little bit less money and let them add the pieces that you want to become the Stanley Cup champion and go on a dynasty run yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that idea. I think it certainly would be, it would be commendable of McDavid to do that. But for me, that at least with the Oilers, I think that ship has sailed. I mean, as soon as Leon Draisaitl signed that big, I think it was like $112 million deal. Like you said, Justin, $14 million a year. There was no shot that Connor McDavid was going to take any like $1 less than that, and it's not his fault. But that's just the way the market works. And if he took less than 10 or 12 or whatever, like the players union would probably come down hard on him and his agent for messing up the market, because this guy is going to reset the market in the NHL. And it's only a good thing really for the league and the players to continue to, see those salaries increase for players. Yes. But I would agree that it will be near impossible for the Oilers to continue to build a team that can be as competitive as teams like Florida. I'll throw in Dallas, teams that, typically, we saw Dallas spend a little bit of money on Rantanen, but typically that don't spend too much on any individual players, and they look at their group and kind of whether they have an internal cap or they just look at, their best players and what they think they're making, and they kind of have everyone fall in after that. It's a little bit more difficult when you have such superstar players at pretty much at the same time in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl that are looking to, hit their prime and obviously cash in as much as possible. And you kind of got to pay these guys to keep them in today's NHL. So I agree that it's going to be tough, but I think that they have a lot of work to do, and they're just going to have to be as efficient as possible. Try to keep that's why we're seeing Trent. We talked about, or me and you, Justin, off camera, we talked about Trent Frederick's deal potentially and what that could look like and why they might be doing that. Well, that's because they need that kind of cost certainty going forward. And if you can start bringing in guys where, okay, over the long haul, over a 6, 7, 8 years, exactly what they're going to be making, it makes it a little bit easier to manipulate, your salary cap and look to where you can make adjustments. But if you're just going, year by year, and like you said, you might have to see a Darnell Nurse traded, or maybe a guy like Evan Bouchard has to take a little bit less money. But I can't see it being Connor McDavid to do that. But I would definitely love to hear him at least say that he's thinking about it, or that he wants to do what's best for the team. But in the end, like you said, it is all about what he needs and what his family and he wants to take care of his life, right? So definitely going to be interesting. Yeah.
I fully get that, and I agree in the sense of get whatever money you think you want, but I just mean in the sense of if you really want to win, you probably have to understand like you're not going to win if you take a massive contract. Like that's something that he has to think about in the back of his mind, because then you have to think, how do they build a good team around me to compete? Or it just becomes the Toronto issue of, I'm just going to get my money that I want and they can figure out the issue around me, whether they like it or not. Like, because like you look at it right now in Toronto, they have 13.25 million on the books. They have 11.5 million Nylander, and then their third highest paid forward right now is Max Domi at $3 million. Like, you can go and get a couple players in that $5 to $6 million range, which they have right now in Ryan Nugent Hopkins and Evander Kane. But if they sign McDavid to that big ticket and like give him every penny that he's worth, or like, sorry, if McDavid wants the big ticket, like I shouldn't say like if you want to sign him to that big ticket, if he wants the big ticket, then I think he has to think about like, I'm gonna have to basically put the team on my back, and I'm gonna have to drag them because they're simply not gonna have the money to go and spend to bring in like a, I guess like, the more players that you can get in that like sweet spot, like in terms of like the $6 to $8 million range going forward in this new cap era, is like the quality players that it's going to take to win a Stanley Cup. Like, you look at the Florida Panthers right now. Obviously, they don't have anyone over $10 million in the top two players being on the dot, and Sergei Bobrovsky and Alexander Barkov. And then you're not telling me that Sam Reinhart's an $8.5 million player. Like, he's just simply not. He took a pay cut, like, to win. Like, that, like, it's ridiculous, the contracts that they have. And yes, you're going to say no state income tax and all this, but it's also partly they wanted to keep the group together. Like, he could have left for more money, right? Like,
Well, quickly, I just wanted, the Reinhardt thing is interesting because I do agree that there are guys, amongst the league, there are many teams where there are guys who are probably not making as much as you'd think that they might be or could in the open market. But at the same time, like, I think it's so difficult when you're comparing guys like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, we talk about Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, whatever, guys that are within the top 15, 10 players in the league, wherever you want to put them. I think it's harder to kind of envision I guess what I would say is it's easier, I think, to project that guys who are in the middle, that 6 to 10 range in terms of millions making. I think it's easier to project those guys as making more than it is to look at the guys that will potentially make the most and say, well, they should take less. Because again, like, Reinhardt is a good example because he had been he had been in Buffalo and was seen as a guy who, potentially wasn't going to live up to the expectation of being such a high pick. So for Florida to come in and even if he had a year or two and then they sign him to a deal, it was never going to be to the amount of, $10 or $12 million because there just wasn't that kind of track record. So I do think it's easier to look back at guys now and say, wow, they're only making 10. Barkov is a, Selke winner and now 2-time Stanley Cup winner and captain of the best team in the NHL, and to say, yeah, well, he only made 10. Well, because when he signed that deal, that's kind of where the market was at. He hadn't accomplished any of those things yet.
Yes.
But Connor McDavid, even ahead, he's already making what he's already making 12 million, right? So that's fair market value because up to that point, Connor McDavid had proven that he was probably, and that's a great point too. It's all about where you're at when you come up on your deal. And unfortunately for Edmonton, they've had two guys that are, premier players, maybe you can argue the two best players in the league at times. And then they've just come up in the last 2 or 3 years, they both need to get paid. And it's unfortunate that that's kind of the way that it runs for them. And we saw Toronto go through the same thing, but you're 100% right, Justin. Like, if they want to win, they're going to have to make some really, really tough decisions as a group. And that's not to say that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and you throw in Bouchard, like, these guys are capable of dragging these guys, deep in the playoffs. I think I would argue that we've seen that in the last 2 years. I wouldn't say necessarily that they're doing it all by themselves. They've had definitely contributions from other parts of the team, but when you look at the rosters, like both of these teams, 2024 and 2025, going into the season, I mean, Edmonton more so this year, but I never looked at their rosters and say, well, these guys are going to be world beaters for sure. And they're, up and down the lineup, they're the best team in the league or one of. I thought there were teams this year that had better rosters, but when you look at the just the talent and the almost the inevitability of a Connor McDavid and a Leon Draisaitl, if they can keep those guys around long term, obviously they've got Draisaitl signed, but McDavid and him, they'll give you a chance every year, it feels like, even if your roster's not up to snuff. So I guess it's up to them to figure out how they're going to kind of run it back, right? So
they'll give you a chance for sure, but like then you can argue like they had the chance when Draisaitl was on an $8.5 million contract, way outperforming that for 8 years. And then for me, the Reinhart thing, just quickly to go back and rebuttal you, is but he scored 55 goals in that season, and then you have a guy in Toronto who just broke 40 and he gets 11.5. Like that to me doesn't make any sense.
Well,
like for Reinhart to get 8.5 and for William Nylander to get 11.5, that one will not make any sense to me.
Yeah, then that's where the state tax, I think, comes in, and that's a whole different conversation. But I do think that factors in. And then
$3 million though.
Yeah, and it's the player and the agent, like they're coming up with that. They're coming up with that decision. Like it's more. That's where I put it more so, and the team obviously for having the balls to kind of offer those low ball deals in some cases. But yeah, like you need buy-in, and that's what we've seen from Florida and other teams. Not to say that McDavid's not going to buy into Edmonton. But
no, yes,
it's that's the argument, right?
I think we can all collectively agree that McDavid's most likely re-upping. Like he's not leaving Edmonton. I don't think.
I don't think you can
I would
agree with that. I would agree, but I don't think it's a unanimous decision. I don't think he's necessarily going to decide I want to be here for 8 years. I can see him signing for 3 and saying, hey, like I'm going to sign for 3. Yeah, it might be a higher AAV, but I want the decision to be made that, like, I want to win. I want to be here. And obviously I'm proving by signing a shorter term deal. And you need to prove to me that you're going to put the pieces in place for me to win. Otherwise, I can't sign for 8 years. And then we start declining halfway through that contract. What's that contract going to look like if you try and move me for 16 million or whatever it is? It's not going to happen. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion. I honestly put my money on it. Yeah, he's going to stay. I don't know if it's for $8 million, unfortunately. Or sorry, eight years specifically.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think like that is an honest conversation that could be had here in the months. Like, what does an extension with him look like? It might, like, if he wants the commitment of we're gonna win now moment or win now window where we're gonna try and win year after year, maybe it is just a 3 to 4 year deal that he signed because he's 29 and that will take him to 33. And if they haven't won a cup by that time, well then like maybe
he's still got plenty of time.
Maybe it's time to go chase the cup. Like
yeah. He'll have plenty of time because most players, like you look at certain players at 33, they slow down. And I don't know, McDavid.
Sidney Crosby's not slowing down.
Well, that's the thing is those main players. Now, the thing is, McDavid, a massive part of his game is speed. And obviously, you're not going to maintain that. A guy like John Tavares has never been fast. And that's why he's able to put up the numbers he is at this age because he thinks the game differently. Now, McDavid is the best player I've ever seen live. Like, there's no question about it. But you do get a little... I'm getting away from the point that he's not going to be a bad player at 33 years of age. Like, he's obviously going to have opportunity. So that's why I think the deal works for him to short term. I still agree with you, Justin, getting back to the taking less money. I don't think he's going to take, like, less money than he's earning right now, nor do I think he's going to make less than Draisaitl. It is a part of your setting the market. Even with a rising cap, you're going to be able to take more money. But you look at I just want to bring up Crosby. You bring up Crosby.
Exactly.
He's made 8.7 for his entire career. You bring up McKinnon. Now, he's making a little more, but for a few years, he was on the most team-friendly contract ever.
6 years, 6.3.
And it allows you to build those players.
Cale Makar 6x9, like those. That is a steal of a deal.
Exactly. Now they're gonna literally empty the Brinks truck for Cale Makar, right? And so, like, at a certain point, it's just inevitable that you're going to have to pay top end players absorbent amounts of money. The Leafs are obviously a great example. Now, I think now people are looking that situation in hindsight, like Kyle Dubas, rookie GM, got fleeced by players and agents that have been in the game for longer. So that situation, I look at it.
But I think did we lose Mando?
Yeah, we lost Mando.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But like, I was just gonna say, the difference is, for me, I think we have you back, Mando. The difference for me is, like, for these big ticket guys that you talked about, Mando, like, right out of the gate, Matthews signs a massive deal. Marner signs a massive deal. That led to the demise of not being able to build a roster around them. When McKinnon and these guys signed for less and took team-friendly deals, what did we see happen? We saw a championship roster get created around a player that's on a team-friendly deal. The same thing kind of, like, it can be said for Connor McDavid. Although Connor McDavid's the best player in the league, he did skyrocket to a massive deal that was worth every single penny. But when you did that, then it took away more opportunity to sign other players. Like, when McKinnon's on a deal for $6.3 million a year, that's $6.3 million a year. It could have been $12 million a year at the time, but like, he signed for 6.3. That gives you that extra flexibility, like, to go out and add a Turi Lehkonen, or go out and add, I'm trying to think, a Samuel Girard, who they drafted and then paid. And then you have Josh Manson, who they ended up bringing in. They have Valerie.
You brought Kadri in for a bit, right? You had Kadri be able to fit.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like, under a team friendly contract, they're able to, like, it seems that way, where teams are able to build championship rosters around them. And then once, like, you know, those contracts are up, it's time to pay the guys that, like, have actually put in the work. And, you know, McKinnon and Makar definitely deserve every single, buck they're going to earn. I just think when McDavid signed that big contract, yes, he deserved every freaking penny. And let me state that, because I don't want anyone to think I'm not saying that McDavid deserved every penny that he ever got. I just think that when you do that, it takes away the opportunity to then build a championship roster around him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My mic's cooked, by the way. This is not working, so you boys just keep going. You're going to hear me worse than you did halfway through this pod.
I think the one thing, though, is like you said, Justin, it's hard when it's easy when everyone is on the same page. And I'm not saying that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl aren't on the same page as the rest of the group, but it does get difficult as soon as you put one or two guys in that upper echelon to kind of keep the rest of the team at bay. That's why we saw guys like Dylan Holloway, and I'm blanking on the defenseman.
Philip Broberg.
Philip Broberg go to St. Louis in offer sheets because the Oilers were strapped for cash. And that's not to say that they're going to be in that position again going forward, but it's possible that if you continue to, give your best players upgrades in terms of salary, then yeah, you're going to be in a tough spot in a hard cap league. And I think that's just one of the unfortunate, drawbacks of where we're at in today's NHL. But at the same time, it's always good to see, the impressive, value of team building and roster building, and how to, manipulate not necessarily players, but manipulate their salary so that you can, like you said, build a strong, competitive, balanced roster across all fronts.
Now, they do have some contracts that are obviously good. Obviously, like I said, the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins one and the Zach Hyman one. Both of theirs are $5 million a piece. That's a really good team-friendly deals. The Darnell Nurse one is going to eat them alive. The thing is, so they have a lot of extensions that are due next season. Right now, they have $11 million in cap space for this offseason. McDavid obviously is not going against the books this offseason, so Oilers fans don't think that that you don't have enough money to sign McDavid right now. They have $64 million in projected cap space for next year at the moment. and they have to sign, if they want, guys like McDavid, Evander Kane, who I think will probably be traded more likely.
Yeah, they'll get rid of him.
Brown, I would expect is coming back. You talk about Trent Frederick. That's where that team-friendly deal comes in for 8 years with a lower AAV of like 3.7 to 3.8. Matthias Ekholm, who's probably going to get a raise, is making $6 million. Jake Wallman, who's definitely going to get a raise, is making $3.4 million. Brett Kulak at $2.7 million, and John Klingberg, and then Evan Bouchard. So like, they're not going to have, like, you're probably looking at what, at least 50 million of that 64 million going to players that are already on the roster for next season already. So yeah, like it's going to be hard for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, at the end of the day, they're not even good enough as it is right now to win the Stanley Cup. So they have to make improvements on top of that. And obviously he wants to be there. He wants to be there if they're going to win. And I think we have some breaking news.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like Jonathan Toews, according to Elliot Friedman and Ken Wiebe, that Jonathan Toews is closing in on signing with the Winnipeg Jets.
Not surprising. Not surprising at all. I think a lot of people had assumed that would be the case. It's where he's from. And, at the end of the day, he's done everything he's done in hockey, right? Like, for Winnipeg, that's a massive win for a lot of different reasons, but you got a guy that wants to be there. It's not often that happens with Winnipeg. Like, they had hard times early on retaining guys. Now, yeah, you got your Hellebucks and your Scheifele's there for a while, which is important, but winning pedigree, like, I don't know if he's going to be a world beater, Jonathan Toews, after not playing for a year and a half, almost 2.5 years. Like, that being said, love it. That's where I would have predicted him to go, and I'm happy that he's back in the league, especially for a team that is close to making a run.
That's a great addition. They needed like a 2C, 3C, and like, you hope that
probably
like,
3C.
But like, honestly, he's probably gonna end up playing 2C for a little bit with Adam Lowry out of the lineup, and Adam Lowry at the best, I think, is a 3C on a championship winning team. So you hope that Toews can give you like, hopefully 2C minutes, maybe 2C production, even though that's not, the most likely thing. I think that's the most hopeful thing. So yeah, I look at it and immediate reaction is this is a really good thing for the Winnipeg Jets. Super, super good.
Yeah, it's a great story to see him, like you said, Alex, go home after such a legendary career, and then kind of a sad finish to it, or what felt like a finish to it. After his kind of symptoms coming after what was, I think, long COVID was kind of the start of it all, and yeah, it was disappointing. But I think it's fantastic to see him A, back in the league, and then B, back in his hometown area playing with the Jets. I think it's going to be such a great story going into next year. But I do kind of agree that I don't know that, again, unless they've seen that he can really, is getting close to a level that he had once played at, or at least for his age is looking really, really efficient out on the ice. Like, I do find it hard to imagine him stepping in next year and playing, even for a limited time, in that 2C spot. But I think, if they, we don't know necessarily what Winnipeg's going to do this summer. If they, say find a second line center, or if they're able to kind of manipulate their roster so that, Toews is in a more kind of ambitious spot and can really help them, like you said, whether it's 3C, 4C, maybe we see him move out to the wing and try to help them in a different way. But I love the deal. I love the story. I'm excited to see him in Jets colors next season. And I don't think I have really anything else to say on that. It's good. It's a good story.
Yeah, I would say 4C. Start him on the fourth line, see where he goes. Like, don't give him too many minutes in terms of like forcing him to be this player that he might not be early on. Let him get his legs under him. And awesome to see him back in the league. He was by far my favorite player when he was playing in the league, man. Like, I don't really root for – like, I root for teams, obviously. Leafs fans here, Montreal Canadiens fans for you, Justin. But, like, you have certain players that you gravitate towards. The way he handled his team, obviously the success, even in World Juniors Like just the way that he carried himself, I'm happy to see him back in the league. The Oilers, though, just wrapping it up quickly, I know we've talked about them long enough, and in terms of like signing deals and things like that. I think ultimately McDavid's probably looking at everyone going, yeah, the only reason I haven't decided yet is who's playing in net for us. Like this poor guy, man. I'm not saying Stuart Skinner's a horrible goalie, but 10 years in the league and you're saying like the best goalie you can put forth for McDavid now is Stuart Skinner and Mike Smith, like years back. Like the I don't understand. I understand goalies don't grow on trees. And Sergei Bobrovsky is a guy who's unbelievable. The first couple of years in Florida, guys were looking at that $10 million deal and thinking it's a horrible contract. And obviously now he's making them eat their words for multiple reasons. But I don't know where you get someone like him. I don't know if it's through a draft. I don't think Edmonton can afford to draft and hopefully develop a goalie with their window. I don't know where a guy like this comes in. Is it a John Gibson? Is John Gibson even up to snuff? What playoff experience does he have? So I think ultimately it's a really hard area to address, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to affect the contract of Connor McDavid. Goalie contracts are a little different. It's trying to fit a guy like that into a system, a goalie into the system that's going to make them a competitor. You can sign Evan Bouchard and McDavid to team-friendly deals. Who's stopping the puck?
Here's a goalie I'll throw out there. I will throw this name out there. Thatcher Demko. What if they were to trade for him?
I mean, I
not
think
the healthiest guy in the world, but like at his best.
No, he's a great goalie.
That would be my concern, would just be the injury history and his kind of inability, it seems like, to be as consistent sometimes as he's been in the past. He's been a great goalie, and I agree he might be a good fit, but I don't know necessarily that'd be a bit of a risk, I think, for the Oilers. But I love the idea.
What if you had like Stuart Skinner like man the net in the regular season, let Thatcher Demko, if he needs a surgery this offseason or whatever it needs to be healthy, just let him take that and get him ready and tell him, and like you can know that Stuart Skinner is going to be enough to get to the playoffs. And I'm not saying like wait until do what they did this year with Evander Kane because they're underneath investigation, obviously. But like if like they got Thatcher Demko to rest until like December of next year and like where he felt 100% good to go, because this team obviously doesn't need him to make the playoffs. If you had Stuart Skinner as well, I just think like that could work. And then you get a healthy Thatcher Demko. We all know what a healthy Thatcher Demko can do. He can be a Vezina winning goalie, it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. Can you rest a goalie and then throw them in sort of like cold without as many reps to be successful? Possibly. I don't know. I'm not really looking towards an answer there. It's just I think that's a major problem. We talk obviously about signing McDavid. I would say number one priority, but you need a goalie, right? Like you need a goalie to stop the puck and be able to be competent in the playoffs. You can't be going to pulling your goalie and you lost the net like 2 or 3 times when you look over the course of the last 2 playoffs. That's not going to fly ultimately. No, we talked a lot here. That's okay. We talked a lot about the Oilers. Let's just talk quickly about some of these deals that went down in terms of the past couple of days. I don't know which one you want to go to first. I have a couple. We might as well do quickly Trent Frederick because we are on the Oilers. I think a lot of people were really dogging this just because of the 8-year aspect. I'm not saying it's the best deal. I don't love it, but I am neutral about it. And I think the reason that is just because I think the timing screwed everybody up too. Is what's everyone's like, immediately after you lose, you're going to sign the guy that scored 1 goal in the playoffs. Basically only performed theatrics when they were down in every game. Didn't really show up other than to shove Sam Bennett around when you're losing 4-5 nothing, 5-1. So I think that's where a lot of people come at it and being like, you're going to give this guy a secure contract where he's basically not performed. I do want a devil's advocate before passing it to you, Justin, by saying, remember that he only played 1 game for Edmonton in the regular season because he re-aggravated an ankle injury that was already injured to begin with when he was traded over from Boston. And so I think he never really got a chance to get his groove going. I don't know if they found a place for him properly in the lineup, to be honest. So I don't know if it's just the way they used him wasn't right, or they didn't really give him a role in the playoffs. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I think it's judged too heavily based on the fact that it's an 8-year deal. And I don't think Trent Frederick's ever really proven a ton. He had like some stretches at the end of his tenure in Boston where that's the reason a lot of people were high on him on this trade deadline. But he didn't give the Oilers what he needed. I think he's got potential. I just think I don't know. Maybe it's just people saw the AAV and they're like, why is this guy getting 4? It doesn't help some of the other deals that came in at 4.5 over the past couple of days that just made this trade look worse too.
Yeah, I just think that this is a really good contract considering it's on a guy that's like 32 and you're buying till like 39. Like you're getting Trent Frederick in the prime of his career. He's 27, right? So he's going to be there till 35. 3.7 is a very low AAV for a guy that can very well outplay that contract when healthy. And that's the biggest thing. Like he wasn't healthy during this whole playoff run or whole rest of the season. So let him get healthy. I do think at the bare minimum, he is a $3.7 million player in the NHL. So you know what you're getting at the floor with him. It's just like, how high can he go? And this basically is financial security for a guy that, you know, if he does get hurt again, then he gets some money. But it's like, to me, this is very low risk, high reward for the Oilers, and just signing, like, I know term, everyone's gonna hate the term, but like it's going to be a really good contract for them. Yeah, I look at it and I think, oh wow, we really lost everyone today. Yep, I'm back. Sorry about that. That was crazy. I don't know why that ever. That's never happened to me. I know it happened.
Pod's falling apart.
Pod is
No, he jumped off.
apart.
He jumped off because
Oh.
I guess, had to take a call.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, listen. Like I said, I think it's a really good contract. I think the AAV is really good. And I think that, like you said, people are going to dog this because it's 8 years.
Yeah.
It's not a player that's 32. You have to remember it's 27. So I do like this. I really do.
Yeah.
We should probably, well, I guess we can touch on Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene basically set the standard for John Tavares here. You know, he decided, but there's also a difference between John Tavares and Matt Duchene in this fact that Matt Duchene's getting a massive buyout from the Nashville Predators right now. So he's getting $6.5 million next season from the Nashville Predators on top of the 4.5. So that's $10 million coming into the bank next year. Like, for me, this helps him decide whether or not to stay in Dallas for a cheaper contract because he's got that buyout coming in from Nashville. But like something like that probably isn't in the books for John Tavares because he doesn't have a buyout, obviously, but he technically has made $88 million. I just think this makes Tavares sign in the $5 to $5.5 million range.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think it definitely sets the standard for him. Similar years. I think Duchene,
similar production.
Well, three of Duchene's best 5 years of production have actually come in the past 4 years. Like his top 2 point producing seasons have been in his age 30 and above time slot in the NHL. It's pretty crazy, his resurgence, and maybe it's just a change of scenery for certain players. He was good obviously earlier in his career, but we see some of the production he's provided now. And it's similar. Do you see it like Joe Pavelski in Dallas did the same thing? He had a surge at the end of his career. 2 of those years were under DeBoer, who's obviously now gone. So I don't know if there's like a difference between seeing if DeBoer factors into some of these older players being successful, but we'll see what Duchesne actually has to provide without him. The only thing with this is that my concern's a bit of playoff production. So Dallas, they really dried up in the playoffs, especially near the end against the Oilers. Duchesne has 12 points in 37 games over the past 2 playoff runs. We give Marner flack. They're completely different players, Duchesne and Marner. Age, the way that they play, the amount that they're relied on their team in terms of pecking order for guys to sort of rag on. But the same does have to be said about some other UFAs. So I just want to give that idea that, like, I don't know, to be honest, off the top of my head, Tavares was not a reason that the Leafs didn't perform well in the playoffs this year by any stretch, but you have to look at it from a similar perspective. Yep. Dallas, I had written notes about this when Duchesne got signed. The fact that they had only $500,000 in cap space and Ben and Granlund to still sign. Now, I might be writing on the wall. Jamie Benn probably not going to be back.
No,
I know that the Stars...
Ben's going to be back. Ben's going to be back.
I don't know, man. I think they're looking at Mikael Granlund and they're saying, we want this guy. I think they really like Granlund, and that's why they made the move that they did, which we can talk about next, to move Mason Marchment out. I just don't know how it plays out, how you're able to get both these guys unless you can bring Ben back on like a 1-year vet minimum.
You're still going to have to move Dumba and you're still going to have to move Lyubushkin, but
they're not done. They're not done for sure.
They're not done. They're not done. We might as well go to that trade because, Seattle basically takes advantage of a team that's cap strapped. And if you're any other team in the league, this guy's put up 53 points and 47 points in back-to-back years.
Yep.
Last year was 47 and 50 or 62, which is even more impressive. 22 goal season in back-to-back years. Just off the top of my head, fourth and a third, that's it. That's it. So,
but you said it. Seattle took advantage. They took advantage of a team that needs to move
on that. They should have. I know I was talking to a Leafs fan last night. He was pissed because third and a fourth for Mason Marchment seems very doable for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and yet they're not going to go do that. Or they could have offered a 2/3, and that still would have been a good deal.
Yeah, no, I think it's more praise for Seattle for jumping in on that, and Botterill for noticing the player, 6'5", great. Well, look, the Leafs had him and they got rid of him, Mason Marchment. Exactly. So, I never really loved that argument I never really loved that take when every team is always why didn't our team do this? It's obviously teams look at it and are probably paying attention, but whether they are just fast enough or whether they did offer a deal and it was a worse deal.
Or Dallas just simply just said, yeah, screw it. We're just going to a team that we don't think is going to win.
Or very fair. Or one team called, they're we're not going to waste time on this. We need to move quickly because we have other business to take. I don't know. Jim Nill's a very smart guy.
Yeah, and Jim Nill, he respects his players, it seems like. And I think, even if he's trading them, he wants to send them to a place where they might have success. Because, he's in it, Mason Marchment's going into a contract year. So, he's going to play his tail off, right? He's going to get more minutes in Seattle. And I think it's a better situation. So I think Nill also thinks about that when he actually makes a trade for players or trades players away. I don't think it's just I'm going to trade you the worst place I can possibly to get the most out of you.
No, yeah.
I think it's more so he thinks about the player when he's actually dealing them. He's a smart guy. He's a really smart hockey guy.
Jeff Merrick said that on Twitter. He was Nill looks at the player and thinks, because I guess Washington State's also tax free. I didn't know anything like that, but basically, Jeff Merrick was he goes, when you sign a guy like Mason Marchment on a deal and you're saying, you're signing here, no income tax, tax free state basically, where that factors into the contract that you sign here to then move a player to a place where they don't have the same tax rules. Not it's a business, but at the end of the day, Nill thought enough to say, we're going to move him to Seattle. It's a very similar tax situation. You're going to earn the exact same amount of money. So agreed. I think he cares about his players, and that sets up a really good reputation for bringing in somebody maybe in the future that's going to help, like a Granlund or re-signing a Ben or what have you. Just last one is, I guess, Donato 4x4. What do you think of that one?
Love it.
Yeah.
What a steal. He has to prove, obviously, that the last season wasn't a fluke. Before last season, his career high was 31 points. Goes up to 62 points last year, has 31 goals.
Yeah.
But for $4 million, he could have got $5.5 to $6 million, I think, probably on the open market this summer. And to get four, or to sign for four, like that, just like Kyle Davidson doesn't do much great, but this is good work.
There's a lot of conversation. No, I agree. A lot of people last year, he was a big trade deadline target,
Yes,
and
kept him.
a lot of people decided, like a lot of people had thought, why would you not get rid of him? Well, you can't be the same person complaining about getting rid of Donato, not getting rid of Donato, and then saying, well, Connor Bedard doesn't have any help offensively. Well, this guy just put up 31 goals, like you said. So sometimes you have to make those decisions that are long term. We did rip Kyle Davidson a new one a little while back, but the only way to build up a reputation, to build a team is to build scoring. And obviously they're going to have to draft somebody third overall this year to help with that. But you got to start in house too and build those guys that are going to hopefully be able to continue that offensive production. So exciting stuff there. I guess we got to move on probably to the NBA. Might as well. I think we're all wrapped up with NHL. Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, like the Islanders report, but I don't really want to talk about them yet.
Nothing to talk about there.
How they're interested in the 7th overall pick, and that could be a talk for Dobson and stuff like that. It's going to be so much news that comes out here in the next week that you just have to cycle through it and try to filter what's real, what's not real. What do GMs want out in the media right now? What do players, agents want out in the media right now? It's all the time. This is the time that you're going to see all that. There's no more time.
Half the stuff that's said is probably not truthful anyway, because at this time of the year, you want to lie and say, oh, yeah, we're interested in this draft pick. We're not interested in this draft pick. You want teams to panic. You're forcing other teams in GM's hands. So at this time of the year, I don't know if I trust anything that comes out in the media. It's all orchestrated. And we'll have a pod probably. I mean, I think it makes more sense to do our next pod Friday morning next week after the first round so we can kind of dive into what happened, because it is Friday or Thursday night. But we can get into the NBA.
No, it's next Friday night.
Game 7. It's Thursday. Thursday night. Thursday night is round 1, is it not? And then Friday's the rest of it?
No.
The 26th, 27th?
27th, 28th.
I don't know, man. We're doing a debate live.
You can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure it's 27th, 28th.
No, at this point we just might as well just know that so that we can give the fans people information. No, you're right. My fault. Friday the 27th to the 28th. That's stupid. They're always doing
official as well.
They do it on the no, I did see that. Damn. No, you know what? It should be Thursday night, Friday. Who's Friday night? Who's watching the draft? They did the draft lottery on a Monday night. Why are they doing the draft on a Friday night? That's really weird. I don't like it.
They want to dominate the headlines, man. Why are you doing that?
I don't like it whatsoever.
Day? Why is it
that? I mean,
Saturday?
The second round, unless you're part of sports media or you're diehard, which I know we are. We're in both of those camps, but to some degree, no one really watches the second round. So I think when you're trying to set up success, Friday night seems like a weird time to do the first round. I feel like the Thursday night would be a better time. People aren't going and doing activities and plans. You can sit down and watch the first round. All that to say, doesn't matter. NBA Finals, Game 6 went down Thursday night. We're going to Game 7. Sunday night. First time since, do you know the last time Game 7 was held in the NBA Finals, Justin? Like a Game 7 will be played in the NBA Finals?
2016 probably.
2016. Cavs blew a 3-1, or Warriors blowing a 3-1 lead to the Cavs. That is indeed the last time. It's embarrassing, but man, insane performance by Indiana. Every player on that team backs against the wall at home. The crowd was standing the entire game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The thing is, all the stats that are going to come out of this are skewed because OKC had their starters out at the beginning of the fourth. So, at the end of the day, all the stuff that you see is all going to have to be judged by basically halftime and seeing how well the Indiana team performed. They held OKC to a season-tying low of 91 points, which, man, that is an insane stat to begin with. That's the lowest OKC puts up in a season is 91, but that's the way that it is. And you can even consider the fact that 10, 15 of those points were from their bench at the end. They're like garbage minute guys. So I don't know. There's some stats here to get into, but Justin, just like what happened last night from what we saw.
Simply Shea did not perform well. That's the biggest thing. And then I think the team of Indiana just embodied the fact like their best players injured. They have their backs up against the wall, and they came out and they just played like that. OKC just didn't simply look like they were in a closeout game. Like it just felt like they either cracked under pressure, or they just didn't have it to begin with last night. That's what I
think they had to lean on J-Dub and SGA pretty heavily. Like Chet Holmgren had nothing. Miles Turner was all over him the entire evening. The turnover battle was actually interesting. It was completely opposite than what we've seen earlier in the year, earlier in the series, I should say. So it ended 21-10 in favor of like the Pacers. They only had 10 turnovers to the OKC's 21. SGA had 8 himself. But I think the thing is, if you're relying on one player to be successful, you have no other option. So that's sort of the way that it has to be. And obviously SGA didn't really have an opportunity. So that's just the way it is. I can kind of just get into some of the stats if you want to take a second, Justin. But basically, at the end of the first half, the Pacers bench outscored OKC's bench 19-3. We've seen so much about how Indiana as a team has been, they really are like the Florida Panthers in some capacity where they rely on a lot of different players. They're not kind of forcing the hand to the Jalen Williams, the Chet Holmgrens, the SGAs of the world. That's the biggest takeaway for me. You see Obi Toppin led the team with 20 points, 4 from 7 shooting from 3. TJ McConnell, the guy's 33 years old, and the energy he brings off the bench, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. They rely on a guy like that so much. I think he had 4 steals off the bench, sort of led the team in that capacity. But the biggest thing is his mid-range game is incredible. You see him kind of drive, pull up right outside the paint, drain the bucket. I think he missed 1 over the last couple of games. He's dynamite from that part of the field. He's coming with a lot of pace, no pun intended. And I think a guy like that on your bench and bringing in the Benedict Mathurin's, who has a lot of confidence, I still don't necessarily feel like he drives the lane as confidently as I'd like to see him. He's a confident player, and he has a lot to offer. He's still very young, but I don't know if he's necessarily like a guy I trust fully. I still think he's a very great complementary piece for that team right now. So that's, I think, a big takeaway is the bench completely dominated in this performance, and that's one of the things that I think is the biggest takeaway. But if you look at the starters' perspective, OKC starters, they finished 1 for 13 from 3. Overall, the team 3 for 20 at the end of the third quarter. Now, they ended up with 8 3-pointers. Again, garbage minutes. None of that really counts in my book. That's crazy stat-wise, though, that the starters could not put together an effort from 3. In this NBA, in this day and age, especially on the road, you have to be better from 3. I think Lou Dort went 1 for 5. And some of the misses were egregious. You're missing the rim completely. There's no backboard whatsoever. An unbelievable sort of performance altogether, or lack of performance, I should say, from the 3-point, where we saw a lot of those come out from the Indiana side of things. So that was sort of the biggest takeaway. Just Indiana at home was able to kind of put things together and stave off OKC for one more year. I think there's one more game, I should say. I don't really know where this goes Sunday night when we go back to Paycom Center. It's going to be an absolute battle. I do think that this NBA Finals got a lot of flack, whereas we looked at the idea of their smaller markets, they're different type of teams. There's no real true, outside of SGA, I don't even know if you consider Tyrese Halliburton a superstar. He's right on that cusp, an unbelievable player. But you look at some of these teams and think, like, I don't necessarily know if there's someone if there's like the market can sustain a lot of the ratings that we saw. I still think it's been an unbelievable series so far. And the fact that that the series is going to 7 to me is just it's incredible. I can't wait for Sunday night, especially after you and I, Justin, talked about how like this at the beginning of this, the way that this NBA playoffs has skyrocketed from level of
Yeah,
interest at the beginning to now, it's unreal.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So
Yeah, it's amazing. The NBA Finals definitely outperformed what I expected from them this year. There are some moments where I still think that the game is just not as intense or as good as what the Stanley Cup is, but also the Stanley
yeah,
Cup had moments this year, the final at least, where it was like, this is a blowout. Like, this is just
yeah,
not watchable. So like, there's definitely ups and downs to both sides. But yeah, the NBA Finals has been terrific. I can't wait for Game 7. Game 7 Sunday night. Last game of the season before we basically head into a big break where we just have
yeah.
Blue Jays.
Free agency periods though, like free
Well,
agencies and drafts and
like
stuff.
after that, then we're all wrapped up. And yeah, we'll be directing our attention to NFL and Blue Jays after that, because it's winding down to that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, this week actually. This week, so Wednesday's the NBA draft, and then Friday's the first round of the NHL draft. It's big stuff here. They don't waste any energy. Once the series are over, the finals are over, we're right to the next year in the calendar, which I love.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
who?
kind of crazy to me that like the game, so they get done Sunday night. The championship
Yes.
winning team has literally like 24 hours to celebrate, and then they're like, draft time, baby.
Well, I think it's funny because, like, obviously for Indiana, or for I, as if Indiana's going to win. I'm not. I don't know. OKC, Indiana, whoever wins. They're probably not going to send a representative to like, because Adam Silver, I think, makes all these picks, right? I don't think it's anybody
Yeah,
else. Like the NHL sometimes bring in like alumni or players to make the actual pick in the first round. I don't think the NBA does that. If they did, I don't think like an SGA or a Tyrese Halliburton are going to have the capacity to go up and draft in the first round. Like, oh, like the Pacers or the
yeah.
Thunder are proud to select. So they're not even going to be aware of who is drafted until like 2 weeks from now, because whatever team is going to win is going to be so happy that they're not in and basically partying. They're not having no idea what's going on.
Day of the parade is the day of the
Yeah, that's honestly like whoever gets drafted could just join the parade, basically. Like it's
This is
insane.
why we don't need NBA
Yeah,
basketball
it's I don't know. It's going to be an
and hockey.
unbelievable week, but here we are.
We don't need them though in late June. Like, they can be
Yeah.
wrapped up by early June. Give the players like a month to like breathe, and the organization
Yeah.
to breathe before they have to actually dial in to make picks.
And the fans. I mean, I'm obviously a huge hockey fan. No, I agree. I'm a huge hockey fan, but at the same time, you lose your love for the game if you're constantly trying to focus. Like, you need to take a step back, enjoy the summer, enjoy other sports, let the teams breathe, and let the players rest to some degree. Like, otherwise the product falls off. Just quick predictions. Who do you think takes the NBA Finals on Sunday?
OKC. I'm
Yeah.
gonna stick with my gun.
No, I'm
OKC.
with you. All these teams, like after a loss, both teams, like I don't know the exact records. There's not undefeated, but like it's like 20-2, I think OKC after a loss throughout the entire season. Indiana's a very similar record, so I think it's just back and forth, and I think OKC takes it home.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
That's
that's
just what
it.
does it though.
I think we
We're
wrapped up.
like, it's a crazy pod. We had a great hour, and then just everything went off the rails. Mando lost
Yeah,
connection. Brandon had to take a call. I used the washroom. I lost connection as well. Everything just went off the rails.
but we
And
limp we limped towards the end of this podcast here.
just like you limped towards the lady at softball last Tuesday night.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
your
Got
battle
it.
wounds.
Listen, you got to set the tone. We're going to be playing the softball team next in the summer season. You got to let them know we're not here to mess around. We're here for success and wins, and we're gonna call you out. All that to say, everything's wrapped up. Everybody's friends now. Nobody's in trouble. Everybody was fine, but
That's
emotions get the
amazing.
best of you. But yeah, I guess that's it. We can wrap up there. And hopefully you made it this far. If you decided to check out, I don't blame you. We got a little bit crazy at the end of the pod, but all that to say, NHL is finished. NBA, one more game to be played. We'll come at you with some reactions in a couple of days after next week. We'll have the NBA draft done by that point. We'll have likely either commentary on what the NHL draft looks like or a recap of the first round, depending on when we put this out. Still a lot to talk about. Free agency around the corner. I'm pumped. I'm pumped that you guys had a chance to join us. Like, subscribe, leave all the stars, comment, engage as best as possible. We always appreciate it. Other than that, enjoy the last game 7 of the NBA Finals, and we'll see you next time.